Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting off with today is the Hierophant. We love to see this card today. I am not surprised to see it. What did I just tell you was occurring right now in the energy of the divine union? Assessment of commitment. What did we say was happening? We've been seeing a lot of this unpacking over the last few days. It is doing that hard work to sustain and take upkeep on the commitment that is occurring within the divine union energy. So what we're effectively seeing right now is, I told you, there's a lot of unpacking that's happening. There was a lot of stuff that was coming out. A lot of this energetically is like this clearing out cycle for a lot of the energy in the divine union recently, because there's a lot of assessment in recognizing that when you're in the divine union frequency, you don't just pop in there and then you just drop your bags off and then you just stay like that forever. You change, you grow, you're building that ability of understanding of self, and you're doing it with counterpart energy that is helping facilitate your own process of understanding and growth. Masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. We've even seen that there's been that moment right now that may be most amplified as that act of having difficult conversations right now. But are these energies or conversations coming from a space or place of accusation? No, they're coming from a space of holding within oneself the aspiration of another, that true act of love in terms of acting and facilitating a clear mirror for another's person. And we do that not by holding the aspiration of what we desire someone else to be, but what we know that they aspire to be. And even now we see that doing that work is requiring a lot of hard energy and trying to show someone changes, things that they might need to facilitate, things they might not necessarily see about themselves that might bring them into a better sense of what it is and who they aspire to be. That is why we even saw yesterday, there may have been a little bit of like a break, like a whistle blown, if you will, because these conversations, these observations, they need some time for personal assessment. A lot of like kind of going into the mind palace yesterday, potentially either tangibly, like needing to take a walk, or just, and like emotionally or spiritually, to absorb what you are receiving from another. And that wasn't coming from a space or place of someone abandoning the work, as it were, but almost needing to get a little bit of clearance, getting a little bit of perspective away from something so that they can appreciate and look at something with fresh eyes. So we see that for a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency, that ability to do so is reaffirming the process of commitment, because it is allowing it to continually grow, to continually take shape. And that is the affirmation of the energetic commitment in the elasticity that you're effectively allowing to exist within the partnership itself. This could be a lot of that conversation of the reinforcement of commitment cycles right now, but with the observation of, again, not just being in something because you happen to be in it, but being in it because this is the affirmation of saying that you desire to be. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency, we saw this is the amplification of a lot of energy that's just moving very, very quickly into the heart of the divine union frequency, almost at an accelerated pace, if you will. Why is that potentially occurring? Because we see that ability right now to release what doesn't serve you is bringing forth what does. Having that moment of observation is recognizing that is a lot of personal path work that's coming into play. These energies right now are coming into union, finding oneself and almost moving almost like fluidly, almost in a way that feels like unconscious, into that divine union frequency. It's like tripping into it in a way, but that's that moment of recognizing that when we trip into something, it's not because we've kind of stumbled on something that we weren't expecting to find. It's that we've done the work to be able to find ourselves ready to fully embody the investiture of commitment that is required to be able to maintain the consistency and the connection. What's happening right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is this is that reaffirmment of the commitment energy. And we like to see this because yesterday we even saw that there was some possibility of some energy falling back into separation. by overly concentrating potentially on what the past self could have done differently or better that may have facilitated this in another dynamic or in another modality. This reaffirmation, though, this recognition point is why we see to a certain extent that a lot of that feeling of, again, that energetic heaviness that may have come from the past, this is like the cold water being thrown around a circumstance or situation, as it were, because this is that affirmation and remembering, as it were, that the energy that you're in alignment with is also the energy that's helping you maintain the energetic frequency that you're having these insights, you're having these understandings, you're having this clarity from. So even now, there is something here about that counterpart energy that is almost reaffirming the commitment, even if it is building a lot of insight and clarity in relationality to circumstances and situations in the past, wherein you either feel that sense of guilt or potential heaviness in the past self for not having recognized what you needed to facilitate and change to permit this, to allow this to come into play sooner, or that recognition point on moving in alignment with energy that is also sharing the same path of commitment and the same desire with you. For both of the energies right now coming into divine union, this is almost that moment that, like, again, hindsight is 2020, but hindsight is not the present. And that ability to focus on the present moment, to be able to see and recognize the energy that you're having, these insights and this clarity through, is also the point in terms of recognizing, again, that sense of understanding that comes into play while also reaffirming where you are presently. So we like to see this type of energy coming into the energy of the divine union. I will stress there may have been some energy that fell into separation over this yesterday, potentially some of the masculine energy. If, again, you were looking back at some kind of version of past self and feeling like you wanted to run back into that to try to impart some kind of lesson there, but recognizing that you are presently here and where you find yourself now. So this is that reaffirmation in relationality to a lot of this energetic commitment that we see going forward. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is really powerful stuff to see in separation. Why? Because this is energy in separation that is not focusing on a particular energetic connection. They're not looking towards a person to fulfill the role of the commitment. They are looking for the manifestation of the energetic commitment. I told you, a lot of the energy in separation right now is doing that hard work of releasing energetic connections right now, not knowing what is beyond that next corner. But this conviction, this certainty, holding forth and shaping and working on the aspiration of what it is you truly desire with another person is almost acting as that GPS system for a lot of the energy in separation right now, holding forth on that aspiration, working towards it, being able to put it into words. This is almost that like shaping that's happening right now, saying, if I'm releasing this, what is it that I'm truly seeking, that I'm moving forward into the unknown for to be able to find? For the energy that is coming into restoration points over circumstances or situations like this is that energetic connector where we see, and this is that moment that is feeling like the true test around commitments, because this is someone that is potentially seeing circumstances and situations wherein someone's not just saying, is able to observe that they can change, but they're showing it tangibly. It is the tangible expression, the observable reality, being able to like hold it in your hands, if you will, to be able to see someone that is moving in a way that you have not seen them move before, acting in a way that you have not seen them act before. That is that affirmation or confirmation point that may be bringing some energy, if there is some restorational quality to some of this collective, into a renewed, invested commitment, but only in the tangibility of feeling it instead of just hearing it observed. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here, I told you, it's not the fact that it's easy. We've got the double 5 energy here. This is heavy work. This is not moving in right now to partnership, all sunshine and rainbows. This is like getting your hands dirty. This is being willing to do the energetic work that is necessary to be able to take care and nurture energetic commitments. We see even now for a lot of the energy and separation, this is that heaviness, because this is someone feeling the internal affirmation and saying, I know what it is that I want to be in. I know the type of partnership that I desire. I'm willing to fight for the type of partnership that I desire to be in, not potentially with the energy that is trying to come into partnership. And this could even describe, I told you, there is some of this feeling right now that is feeling very difficult, because this is almost trying to effectively say, if there's some energy right now that feels like they're pushing someone away, but almost from an act of love, this may be feeling some of that energy that's like trying to come back in this way. And this is the affirmation to try to say to someone, like, when I'm moving you away in this fashion, it's not due to a lack of desire. It's not due to a lack of need. It is due to knowing, to recognizing what it is that one truly aspires and desires for in relationality to partnership. And that's not, I got to stress here, we're not talking about situations or circumstances where someone's giving someone an ultimatum and saying, like, you better put a ring on it. We're talking about someone holding within themselves the desire and need to move in union with someone who desires and aspires for the same things that one aspires and desires to have without having to have conflict. That is the difference that we're potentially seeing right now. And that's even now why there may be this moment of someone energetically feeling like they're trying to move back towards you in a very like assertive fashion and trying to articulate to someone that is not, and this could be even a lot of energy that feels like someone is giving them an ultimatum or saying, like, I'll move forward in commitment, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, and having to almost articulate to someone and say, if you feel like there's something you can offer me that is going to fix this, like, that's not what is being articulated on. It is the desire and aspiration to be in a partnership that one is just recognizing that the act of love is giving forth. It's not something that you feel like you have to shake someone like a tree to have something drop, like to have that kind of energy come, like, drop out of. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy that's going through this, it is very difficult, because this could be a feeling right now of having a lot of difficult conversations in relationality to commitment, and potentially even feeling like there's some kind of profound miscommunications that are potentially happening between you and another energy in relationality to someone almost saying to you, I want what you want, and someone saying, observably, that's not the case. I told you, when we're articulating that feeling of being like, we're on very different paths, we're in very different places, I don't think you understand what I'm saying to you. I don't think that you're understanding, like I'm understanding what you're saying to me. That is that moment that almost feels like that amplification point for some of the energy right now. It almost feels like it's kind of like getting a little, it's almost like the way someone is articulating and trying to communicate this is almost evidence of what needs to effectively change. Masculine and feminine that is coming into, that is having a resolution around circumstances like this is that observational moment that again is amplifying whether something can change. And it may come in the space or place of, again, either seeing that there is some ability of change to be there, seeing someone being able to approach conflict in a different way, someone having a breakthrough in relationality to what they do in a point of conflict. That is potentially reaffirming right now energetically some of that energy that does feel like there is some kind of pathway here, and it's being amplified by some changes in conflict. Masculine and feminine that are coming into the divine union frequency right now, this is that moment that the divine union frequency itself is giving you new breakthroughs and insight around conflict, especially if these are spaces and places where you're experiencing or feeling conflict, but it doesn't feel like it is a separation factor. It's almost that moment of feeling like even in a moment of conflict, it reinforces the partnership. It's that feeling of, and this has been coming through a lot right now for the collective. In relationality to conflict, the key difference that separates a conflict is whether a conflict is articulated by two individuals who want the same thing but have different ways of going about it, or divine union, or two energies that want very different things, and they are arguing to try to pull someone onto their side of the road, which is not divine union. So we see even now that what is happening in the energy of the divine union is experiencing and feeling that productivity and conflict, aspiring for the same thing, knowing that you are on the same side, but just having those healthy disputes to help figure out how to do it. That in itself is the conflict that creates the connective tissue, even in the process of having the conflict. Versus, and it's giving clarity and insight to a lot of the energy coming into the divine union on why the conflicts in the past may have not necessarily been working out in such a productive fashion, because that wasn't necessarily feeling like you were moving in the same direction as someone trying to pull you onto their side of the street. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the divine union frequency right now, this is some of that heavier work. I told you, one of the things that we've been identifying right now is not the fact that masculine and feminine don't aspire and desire for the same things in the divine union frequency, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Feminine, what did I say is happening? Wants to move more conservatively. Masculine wants to rush forward right now. Trying to find that midpoint, I keep telling you, is going to feel a little bit like trying to tune a radio right now, right? But it is that ability, and we saw even yesterday, taking a little bit of a break to enter back into it right now is, again, putting in that work, because the work is like refining and defining the shape of the partnership, right? It's not destabilizing it. It is reinforcing it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, what did I tell you? We've got our lovers here. So this is all that energetic feeling of healthy conflict. I know, you guys, such a thing does exist. So what are we seeing that's happening right now in the space and place of healthy conflict for the energy that's in the divine union? It's going to feel a little bit like trying to fine tune a radio, wanting the same thing, just trying to find what that looks like, what the shape of it looks like. This is like, again, that act of like refinement that sometimes can get a little bit prickly, because when we start to drill down in something, when we start to like analyze and get into the minute details of something, it can start to feel like we're really kind of like sweating the small stuff, if you will. So we see even now, this could be like a little bit of that, I gotta say, it can almost like at the top level of this could be a little bit of that bickering energy. You know, like birds like that are chattering away at each other, but they're still making music. It's going to feel a little bit like that. For others, this could be a lot of that more heavy energetic lifting that is occurring right now in terms of reshaping some kind of partnerships in relationality to how much you've changed while in the heart of the divine union frequency. There's a scale here even now in terms of how this is potentially impacting you. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now. The revelation of feeling like you can have a productive argument and it doesn't separate you, it reinforces the commitment, is again almost coming through with the recognition point of the difference between feeling like you're having an argument with someone but you both want the same thing, you've just got different ways of going about it, versus what now you may recognize was not leading to divine union, which was arguments that were energy that was trying to pull each other in different pathways. Right? That's the difference in a productive conversation, one that leads to breakthroughs versus that feeling of resentment or anger or uncertainty. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this could be a lot of potential active conflict that's happening even as you're trying to move forward in a more productive way in relationality to partnership. And there could almost be what we're seeing here, something that feels most akin to some kind of stark energetic contrast, if you will, in the relationality to how someone is approaching you and the way that they're approaching you versus what they're communicating they feel, right? If this is almost that energetic connection for a lot of the feminine of someone who's getting very like, you know, aggressive or you know, feeling very like demanding and also amplifying the need and desire to be in partnership with someone, this is again, almost, I told you, it's like the reinforcement on why potentially a separation event is occurring, because that is again, that is that need-based desire matrix. That is someone saying, I need you, I want you, instead of looking at situations and circumstances and saying, what do I have to give you, like, to facilitate this? What do I need to bring forth? What do we need to give one another, right? That difference between productivity versus feeling that like argumentation. For a lot of the energy right now, this is the affirmation of almost moving forward, even if that's coming into a space or place of uncertainty, because this is that moment that's almost amplifying and saying, like, energetic alignment is going to feel more like one that wants to empower as opposed to one that like wants to battle, right? Versus the energy that's coming into a point of resolution around circumstances or scenarios right now. This could be the identification point that something has truly, truly changed in a connection, specifically because of a new approach that someone is seeing in a moment that would have potentially in the past generated a moment of separation and conflict. That moment of, again, seeing some of that connective tissue that is coming through is, again, the feeling and the amplification of in separation. The same message is coming through for the energy in separation. And this is the best way to identify and define it. The difference in an argumentation space of two people who desire the same thing and have different methods or ideas in terms of how to go about it. That would be a healthy like argument, versus an energy that has a very specific path point and they're demanding that the other energy meet them there, or they're trying to pull them to that, into that modality, right? That energy that feels more like it doesn't want to collaborate in terms of finding productivity, but is almost coming into a space or place of insistence in terms of how one aspires things to be, and requiring the other energy to, like, you know, and having that argumentation space to try to enforce or bring someone over into that same modality. So we see even now, this could be some heavy energy that's happening in separation, but it's almost reaffirming to someone in this moment how much they effectively feel like they need to continue forward in this way. This could also be a lot of energy right now that is almost feeling like someone is misunderstanding them or misunderstanding their motivations at this time, at a time when they're trying to give a lot of love and empathy to a situation or scenario. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread. In a way, I keep seeing here, if these are spaces or places where someone is in separation and there's just been this kind of like amplification of an argumentation space at a time that someone is trying to say, I'm doing what I feel like is right for both of us. This is almost that energetic, like, affirmation, if you will. It's in a way, like, what's so difficult about this is we're seeing that for a lot of the feminine, like the masculine and feminine energy in separation right now over circumstances of this nature, it's any of this that feels like it's coming from that more hostile argumentation space. It feels like it's energetically reaffirming, if you will, that the choice that you're making to hold on to the aspect and identification of what you know you aspire for in partnership is the right path, because you're almost seeing, in a way, the stark contrast of what you truly desire versus what someone is giving forth to you at this time, that is reaffirming your own commitment to move forward on this path, regardless of whether they see. And this is almost that energy saying, like, you don't understand, I want this for both of us. You're not being able, this isn't something I'm seeing that's here. It doesn't mean that I don't aspire that it might be there at some point, but there's almost something here of feeling like someone is lacking, like I said, not on the same path, lacking the tools, not necessarily meeting you where you're at. There could be a lot of miscommunication that's almost occurring here in some of these spaces and places that may feel so difficult. But at the same time, it is reaffirming to someone the choices that they're making potentially in separation. While for the energy in separation that's having what could be described as conflict energy, seeing someone moving in a much different way than they may have moved in the past is the reaffirmation point. That's that moment of someone basically putting their, like, you know, mouth where their money is, if you will, because you're seeing, it's not just someone saying that they've changed, you're seeing that happening tangibly, potentially in a space or place that would have previously led to some point of conflict. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is that connective tissue. That is that moment of feeling a breakthrough, because even when you're having these small conflicts, it's something that feels like it is almost like a love language. You're building like a love language in a conflict space, where even when you're having something where you don't necessarily agree, it doesn't feel like it is fundamentally tearing you apart. It almost feels like it's reinforcing the connectivity that you have with someone, because again, you're recognizing that this isn't something about two energies all like trying to do different things. This is figuring out, like almost like a process of refinement, how to go about wanting the same thing, but just having potentially different opinions on how to do so. Masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is where I see that this could be a little bit more energetically difficult at this time, because this is talking about some of that, deep work that's happening right now, either again in terms of recrafting or reconsidering the relationship from where you first entered it to where you are now, bearing in mind how much you've changed, not necessarily changing or pulling away from the relationship, but reaffirming, reassessing, doing that spiritual and energetic cleaning, recognizing that relationships need to be observed to see like if what worked when you first entered them is still functioning well now, right? Or this is that moment of trying to make some fundamental changes or helping someone on their own path work, potentially by showing them, we saw here, patterns within themselves that you're hoping to help them facilitate their best version of self via changing. We see these are heavy conversations right now. This is a lot of that deep energetic work, but that is that moment that, again, we saw a little bit of a rest period yesterday on this, but now we're almost seeing that this is the picking back up of that, with the clarity that may have been reached and taking some points of solitude yesterday for oneself to really get a better, sharper idea of how you feel, what you want to bring forth to help facilitate some of that productive or positive change. Fifth card in our 5-card spread, before we start getting clarification on these cards, is we have here the Ace of Cups in its reversal. And that's what's really interesting about this right now. And I have to stress, this is some of that takeaway. This is a carryover from yesterday. I did tell you that we saw a little bit of that spiritual or energetic exhaustion coming into play around some circumstances or scenarios. This is why I'm telling you right now, for the energy in the divine union frequency, this may feel like it is requiring a lot of difficult conversation. Because what did we effectively see was happening right now for the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency? The ability to know another counterpart energy so well is almost seeing things about the counterpart energy that they themselves cannot or are not as easily able to see. So what is happening in these modalities right now? This is almost feeling some of that energetic exhaustion that we observe that may have felt a little bit difficult, even in the best case scenario, being shown something or revealed something about yourself that is harder for you to acknowledge and observe, even in a loving environment that can feel very emotionally or spiritually overwhelming. So this could even be the identification of articulating why a little bit of that like stepping away point may have potentially energetically been needed or required, if you will, because this is that moment that we even see that there may be some conversations about trying to come into a space or place of finding more effective solutions to what may be feeling, like I told you, unhealthy patterns or cycles, things that feel like they're not moving things in a progressive direction, but almost feel like they're energetically or spiritually draining. This could either be a counterpart energy revealing or showing something to you in this capacity for the sake of one's own betterment of self, or addressing together in partnership things or patterns that you're seeing and recognizing that you don't feel are serving the benefit of the partnership, and almost feels like it's creating too much of an energetic drain. So I told you, that's the act of refinement that's potentially coming through right now in the divine union frequency. It's not easy. It's not easy, but being in divine union isn't easy. We're not in it because it's easy. We do it because it's worthwhile. And so we see even now that ability to articulate and define that is that moment that is reaffirming the connections in those spaces and places, because it's almost showing again how much energy you're willing to commit towards something in order to facilitate a space or place of improvement or greater growth. Masculine and feminine energy that are coming into divine union right now, this modality, this ability, this identification point that we are effectively seeing right now is that moment of, if you are experiencing a situation or circumstance wherein, again, you're coming into identifying the particulars, you're moving, this energy right now coming into divine union is already very much in the heart of it. The thing that's very important and significant about this right now is feeling a little bit, I told you, that overwhelm in relationality to the inevitability that you're feeling in relationality to a connection right now. It can feel very overwhelming when you enter the divine union frequency, because the inevitability of feeling what's brought you forth into it, it doesn't mean that anything that happened before this never occurred and didn't matter to you. It's almost now creating a space or place of feeling the full expression of how much you may have cared for the things that led you up until this point. And that commitment moment, that moment of feeling that this is like that space or place that you are energetically locked into, that you're energetically committed to. It's almost like creating this heart expanding exercise in remembering, or almost feeling like that release process in anything prior to this. And that doesn't mean release in terms of feeling the need of saying like, I don't care about those things anymore. It's just almost feeling like they're moving within you into different spaces or places. That can feel very energetically overwhelming. This energy in separation right now is very tricky and difficult, because I'm seeing here that for a lot of the energy in separation, this affirmation to oneself, if this is the moment where you have made some choice to move forward, seeing something that you feel you're not seeing a change on, the problem is you can almost like hear the echo of it as you move forward, right? It's almost like articulating and amplifying how little there's been a change there, which is what's so difficult about it, because again, it's almost creating more of that argumentation space, or something that feels like it's more like willing to, like, you know, the aspirations, like almost like the metric of someone wanting to fight as opposed to wanting to love is there, and it's trying to like say to someone like, can you not see? It doesn't seem, you know, if you're saying that you care about me, it doesn't seem like you care about me. It seems more like you just kind of want to argue with me or create that space of like volatility. Right? And so even now we see that for a lot of the energy, this feels like almost like that impossibility matrix of a situation, because it's not due to a lack of wanting to energetically give forth to someone. It's almost feeling like there isn't an ability to give forth to someone in a way that doesn't feel like it amplifies the fight instead of the love. Right? And that's the problem that we're almost seeing here, is like almost like if someone can't recognize that that is occurring, it feels like it kind of like leaves you a little bit breathless. It leaves you like out of options. So that's why we even see now energy that's going through this. It's almost that moment of saying like, I can't do anything else about this situation. There's nothing that feels like it's energetically uplifting. It just feels like it's like almost energetically draining, which is why I told you a lot of this energy right now is coming into a space of saying, I need to heal from this. I need to facilitate my own healing. While the masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into healing on this, if there is some kind of energetic restoration, it is seeing someone that is going through a point of conflict and almost immediately having this like moment, because you're seeing the fact that they have in fact changed specifically due to something that you recognize and know would have created a conflict in the past, and someone taking entirely new pathways, entirely new approaches. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hierophant in combination with our Five of Wands. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Pentacles. Masculine and feminine energy that are going through these separation cycles. And that is what is potentially so difficult about these separation cycles. There could be a lot of energy right now that is moving away from someone that is amplifying a desire or need for commitment here, but someone basically saying this commitment that you're asking for is not one that feels like it is productive. It just feels like it's creating too much conflict. It feels like we are trying to pull each other in very separate directions. That energetic commitment here is why we see that a lot of this healing is almost the reaffirmation of someone moving forward on this, because this is someone basically, again, bringing that healing gesture back to themselves and saying, it's going to take me time to recover from this. It's going to take me time to be able to move away from this, because this is almost like, that feeling of having to really remove yourself from something because there's too much of that volatility that's there. And this could even be a moment of, again, if someone is moving in this fashion, trying to explain to them is almost coming through with the hope of saying, hopefully if I move away from them in this way, they will understand. They will see. They will be able to observe with the gift of time that what I'm doing does not indicate a lack of desire to be in commitment with them. It's being able to be in a commitment scenario that feels like it is one that we are in alignment in terms of what it is that we both aspire and desire for, instead of feeling like someone is trying to pull me onto their path without too much room for coming into alignment, right? That's what we see with the conflict point. Someone saying, no, it has to be this way, instead of saying, what do we need to do to find that point together? For a lot of the energy right now that is seeing that in a resolution scenario, it's seeing someone and being like, wow. And there probably was some time here. This type of work does not happen overnight. I got to be honest with you guys. This could be almost looking at something and being like, wow, you've really, really changed. I can see that because I can recall how you would have handled this in the past. It is very different from how you're handling in this presently. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union right now. This modality, feeling the gift of what can be a productive argumentation space, something that doesn't even feel like an argument, it feels more like bickering, has to do with that sense of recognizing the difference between, again, an energetic connection of two people trying to pull someone onto their path, as opposed to the energetic feeling that you're both moving in the same direction. You both want the same things. You just got a little bit of fine tuning to do in terms of trying to get there. Masculine and feminine energy, the reason in the heart of the divine union right now, why these are heavier conversations, is because you've already mastered the art of that. It's a part and parcel for what you experienced when you first entered the divine union frequency. This is more to do with long-term growth. There could be a lot of conversations here. I told you, we saw a lot of the energy of the divine union, looking at where you were when you first started the divine union versus where you are now. It's very logical to see that now is that moment of coming back to get some perspective. What's beautiful about that is that solitude that we saw that was entering yesterday was so a solitude could remove the moment of looking backwards and instead focusing on what you desire and aspire for forwards. This is now going to potentially feel like a lot of these conversations are kind of turning on the dynamic of saying, okay, where do we go from here? What does things look like in the future? What are our manifestation goals? What is the shape of that? Moving those things into the space of productivity via focusing on the long-term path work and the aspiration and goals. Masculine, and that is that moment that almost says that there's a conviction that's happening here for the energy in the divine union, saying, I'm willing to do the hard work in making adjustments now to be able to build that ideal scenario in the future. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Five of Wands in combination with our Lover's card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through. Two cards coming out to clarify. Yeah, a lot of decisions today. A lot of decisions. We like to see this. This is breakthrough energy. Yesterday was a little bit of a pause point. Yesterday was a little bit of like a intermission, need a minute, need to walk back, if you will, take a look at something, get some perspective, but not for the sake of abandoning a situation or circumstance, for the sake of getting perspective. So what we're effectively seeing right now for masculine and feminine energy in divine union, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is coming from a lot of that taking time in solitude yesterday to think about what it is that you truly aspire and desire for. That's going to be a lot of that moment of looking right now and saying, this is what I'm grateful for in the moment. This is what I would like to change. And recognizing and observing and working through. I told you, what is the beauty of having a positive, productive conversation? Recognizing what is within our power to change versus what is integral to our core. So for a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency, there's going to be a lot of that modality almost articulating and amplifying and saying, this is what I'm grateful for in the union. This is what makes me happy. These are the things we can both agree on that like make things productive and positive. These are the conflict points. This is getting very much like, can we agree on the conflict points? Can we agree on the difficulties? What is the benefits? Good. What are the negatives? Let's be able to build more of these and remove more of those. When you look at it like that, amplify the positive, eliminate the negative. Dun, 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 dun. You know, like it's literally like that. It's almost like a lot of this energetic work right now is, again, it's really going to feel like a little bit of that, like this doesn't have to be that complicated kind of work right now. And I told you, this is that energetic refinement moment that's potentially occurring, because this is that moment of recognizing and looking and seeing that the shape of the divine partnership is one that has become an expansive moment. And when we have more to look at, we have more positives, more problems, right? It's like they are kind of part and parcel, but we see to a certain extent that is that effectiveness moment to be able to say, like, how can we grow something more without effectively, removing taking out what's difficult. So remember I told you there was like that soup analogy that we were having like over the last few days of the feminine energy being like, let's not touch the soup. And masculine being like, let's make more soup, let's like super soup it. This is now like almost the energies being like, okay, like we could probably always perfect the soup, right? That's what we're almost seeing is happening here. That is now allowing for that energetic moment being like, yeah, I would maybe add a little bit of this. I would take a little bit less out of that. Like this is now showing a little bit more of that like energetic agreement and easement on what someone feels comfortable in being able to change versus what they feel is integral. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency, you're basically doing this right now. The importance about this right now is it doesn't feel as difficult, because this is more that understanding, that profound moment that you're experiencing right now of feeling like you're reaching this new level or heightened degree of contentment. And it doesn't mean that the problems in the past go away. It means that you've got a lot of different opinions on them. So even now we could see that this could be a moment where energetically masculine and feminine are almost sharing in each other their struggles in the past. This could even be a conversation for energy coming into divine union on some energy around you that still feels like it creates some feeling of dis-ease, like lack of unease, if you will. Things that feel like they're open-ended, to be able to immediately like resolve those moments or situations together. I told you these energies did not expect to come into alignment so quickly. So we see that a lot of this almost feels like the blending of path work that's occurring here in terms of kind of showing someone fully all aspects of one's own self and one's own problems. Recognizing that this isn't a moment that it feels like you're holding these energies separate. It's almost that moment of feeling like you're sharing in each other's blessings and you're also sharing in each other's griefs. Masculine and feminine energy that are in separation right now, this is like the energetic calling it moment. Especially right now, do you see that this difference in pathwork here? For a lot of the energy right now, this feels like hitting that moment of saying like, I love you, I care about you, but this is just, I'm at a loss, because this is that moment that we're almost seeing that someone is basically trying to say, my care for you is profound, but if there's too much conflict, if it feels less like you want to be in alignment with me and more like you're insisting that things must be your way, there isn't that ability to come into that meeting point. This is that energetic equivalent of saying, I need to find an energy that wants to work with me, that has the same dreams, that has the same aspirations on what they see and view partnership as. Because this could be a moment of looking and saying, what you and I desire in partnership are potentially very different things. Like this is almost that moment that one can say to themselves, I love you, But what you want and what I want are vastly different places and spaces. And what we see for a lot of the energy in that moment, that is almost like that energetic equivalent of potentially feeling like you're moving away from someone as they're like demanding that you come back, because in a way you're almost saying like, I cannot subscribe to the scenario of partnership that you're offering because it doesn't meet my aspiration and ideal. And almost saying that to someone, saying, I hope you join me and you find me when you're ready for what it is that I am offering. So for a lot of the energy right now, this feels like a real like moment of having to like come into a point of profound separation potentially because someone isn't able to meet you in that space. Like trying to pull you across the street instead of like arguing about how to cross the street. While for masculine and feminine that are coming into resolution, seeing this sea change, potentially seeing an energy that you're recognizing a space or place that would have potentially led to a conflict or argument in the past, seeing it suddenly becomes a productive ground to build from, is serving as the confirmation that something here is truly finally in alignment and ready to like move forward into a divine union scenario. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Lovers card and our Two of Pentacles. Great cards reversed. Two cards we love to see together. Clarification coming through right now. Yeah, we don't do this because it's easy. This sounds like it's hard. Okay, I told you it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's hard work. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to get your hands in the mud here. And we see even now for the energy of the divine union, being able to do that hard work, again, almost doing that energetic equivalent of having the hard conversation, showing someone something that's hard for them to see, but not from a state or place of wanting to change them for your own desire or will, but for the sake of knowing what you know they aspire for in themselves. It's not easy. A lot of it's going to be moving into the space or place of talking through a point of aspiration, talking about what you aspire for, looking at where you are in the divine union now, talking about where you aspire it to be, asking yourself, what can you do to bring that aspiration or that ideal into the present? It's heavy. It's hard. Some of this may have to be a point of observation in terms of showing someone in a certain way in divine union, even now saying, I know that this is what we aspire for. This makes it difficult. This is creating a challenging space for me. This is feeling like it's pulling us apart instead of bringing us together. We have to observe what isn't working, even if it's hard to look at, but not because we're saying that that is a failure point. It's because when we care about a union energy, we want to look at where the cracks are so we can figure out how to fix them before they become untenable. Right? So this is that doing that hard energetic strength work of having a difficult conversation now to be able to avoid what could be a destabilizing separation event in the future. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union, this ability to go through difficulty right now, but feel like you're pulling on the same side. It almost like suddenly feels like even when you're in an argumentative space, it's not a tug of war because you're not trying to pull someone onto your point of view. You're trying to refine and figure out different facets on how to tackle the same problem. That's why we even see now that this is feeling like that deepening integration that's potentially happening around of scenarios right now in revealing more to one another, even as you move deeper into the divine union scenario, because it's feeling less and less like you're inhabiting two worlds so much as you're merging those lives together, and their problems become your problems and your joys become their joys. You don't separate them out and say that sounds like a you problem. It's now an us problem. So we see here that that is some of that exercise that's happening, and that means the blending of the good and the bad. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. So we see even now that's taking a little bit of strength. Masculine and feminine energy that are in separation, this is that dividing line that's potentially affirming now the energetic connections that are moving forward, often to the unknown, to find new energetic connections, aspiring for the manifestation goal of what they feel a true divine partnership looks like, versus seeing that happening potentially in some energy that's now coming out of separation. And that is either going to be articulated again in the difference, if there's some kind of conflict coming up, the feeling of refinement, having two energies that want the same things and wanting to go in the same, like pulling in the same direction, but just having different techniques in how to do that. versus this observation point and saying, you don't want to be in partnership with me the way that I aspire to be in partnership. You want the partnership that you want. And I want the partnership that I want. And we're pulling in two different directions because we don't want the same thing. So we even see now that there may be someone that is almost trying to amplify to someone that while they may feel that love, they may feel that empathy, they may feel that passion, that they are observing that what someone is trying to bring forth to them, what they want in terms of partnership, is not the same thing as they are either saying or expressing. This is literally someone like trying to show someone and say, what you are showing me is not what I aspire and desire for. It might not even be what you say or claim that you aspire and desire for. That's what's so difficult about this, because this is almost that energetic equivalent being like, do you see this? Are you aware of this? Or is this something that is unobserved within you? That's why we see in both of those scenarios, if that is happening, someone saying, it doesn't matter which one it is. In either way, it is a failure point. It doesn't matter if you're intentionally in that modality of saying that you want one thing when you truly want another, or if you don't recognize that what you're doing stands as an impossibility vector for what you actually want. It's like almost like that moment of saying it's all lost in the wash because it all has the same result. So this is almost, again, someone saying, when you are ready, when you want the same thing I want, I will know because you'll know where to find me. And this won't feel like we're trying to pull against each other. This won't feel like a tug of war. It'll feel like we're pulling in the same direction. The energy that's coming into resolution and restoration at these moments is feeling that right now. They're having that like profound moment of being like, wow, yes, something has changed here. You're not trying to pull me off the path. You want to be on the same path with me. We're just bickering over the way to do so, right? Even now, that productivity coming into play. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Pentacles in its reversal and our Ace of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now. Passion has nothing to do with it. Passion has nothing to do with it. Passion's got nothing to do with it. A lot of the feminine energy in separation right now could have a lot of masculine energy coming towards them from a passion center, which is going to feel most articulated by someone saying, I want you, I need you, I desire you. And this is, again, the feminine energy in separation being like, I know, I want you, I desire you. But that is emotionally draining. That is literally feminine energy trying to say, can you understand that if you only come towards me from the sake that I am serving your passion center, that is not you building a garden with me, that is you utilizing me as an oasis, that is something that drains me of my energy, that is something that leaves me exhausted, it leaves me in worse condition than you found me. This is the feminine energy basically saying to someone, we need to reverse the stream on this. We need to change the flow on this. This is not sustainable. It may feel good in the moment, but it doesn't feel good overall. It doesn't create a sustainable environment. So this is the feminine energy almost saying to a masculine. That's why we see if a lot of masculine energy is just coming back to feminine right now from a point of separation, even in an argumentative space, going, I'm willing to fight for you because I want you. That is feminine saying, I don't want that. I don't want that, because that is not building something that feels like it is sustainable. It just feels like it's building something that is draining. For feminine energy trying to articulate this is saying you need to emotionally support me. You cannot just come towards me to fulfill a need, because that is a relationship. Obviously you want a relationship like that, because that's a relationship wherein you get all your passion needs filled and you don't have to do any of the emotional work. Sounds like a win-win for you. Feminine's like, what does that mean for me? I get the joy of your wand. Like, this is the feminine literally going like, great. This is the feminine energy trying to amplify to someone that the relationship cannot exist simply from the passion center. It is non-sustainable. Masculine energy, if this is something that you're going through with the feminine right now, this is potentially a feminine. If this is a masculine, that feminine saying, I can change, I can adjust, I can adapt, I can do anything I can to be with you. Masculine energy is because I want you. Masculine's going, no, I want you too. I can't do this under that condition. I can see how much what a toll it takes on you to be in a relationship with me like this. I can see that it is emotionally, energetically damaging you. If masculine energies come into a healing space and they've just found themselves, they don't want to see a feminine that's contorting themselves and emotionally damaging themselves in order to try to facilitate the version of themselves from masculine that they feel will work. Masculine's trying to say the difference to feminine in that modality of saying there's a difference between you desiring the things that I desire, us being on the same path, versus you ripping yourself off the path and doing everything you can to try to contort and be with me. Masculine's like, I can't do that. I love you, but not like that. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. Masculine and feminine that are coming into that are moving into divine union in this modality, this is that observational point, if you will, of again, feeling that energetic freedom of coming into a space or place wherein you're able to share with each other. I told you a lot of this energy right now, having a lot of these breakthroughs, even recognizing some things from the past that you now can kind of see better in the optics of the present. What are they doing right now? They're talking about it. They're not hiding it from each other. They're not pretending that these things don't exist. They're building the connective tissue, because the more that you reveal in the divine union frequency, the more the tissue's there. This is almost that moment of understanding that even, again, what is masculine doing? Masculine sharing to feminine, saying, prior to meeting you, I used to just, maybe potentially even masculine saying to feminine, I used to just let my passion center run wild. I wish I could go back to that person and tell them what I recognized that they needed to do, what they needed to know, because this is the masculine saying, this didn't work for me either. It felt good in the moment, but it left me unfulfilled. Healed masculine. Feminine saying, there's been a lot of spaces and places potentially in the past where I contorted myself. I tried to change. I tried to do anything to stay with a masculine. That wasn't the right thing for me to do either. These energies are building the tissue by talking about these things. And again, almost saying to one another, you don't find me perfect. You perfect me. You help me find myself. I'm not changing to adapt to you. You're helping me become the best version of myself that I aspire to be. Masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency, this is some of the harder work right now, because you kind of already recognize that this has happened if you're already in the divine union frequency. The energy in the divine union frequency is moving through right now, trying to find efficiencies, observing what has changed from the time that they entered the divine union to where they are now, to look at things and say, listen, it's not that things aren't good. Things are great, but things could always be better. Things could always be better. What can we do to make things better? Masculine has ideas. Masculine has ideas. Masculine's trying to facilitate this, which isn't surprising, because again, I told you masculine's doing more of this energetic push, if you will. Feminine is expressing some of their doubts, anxieties, and fears. So what do we see that's almost happening right now for the energy in the divine union? That counterpart energy is, again, feminine trying to build into masculine's own confidence, trying to build that resiliency. Masculine trying to make sure that they're not energetically or emotionally pushing the feminine too far by trying to escalate and wanting to come into that point of pragmatism. So we see both of these energies are being very mindful in what? Pulling each other across to the side of the street? No. Finding that happy medium. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 7 of Pentacles, our 9 of Cups, and our 2 of Swords in its reversal. These are powerful cards in combination today. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through. We love this. Why are you doing this heavy work? It's not easy, but it's liberating. This is, again, that affirmation. And again, why you're doing the hard work now to amplify the positive. Sometimes you got to look at do the hard thing. You got to got to do that hard work to be able to preserve and maintain the successes and the benchmarks that you've reached this far. So this is that moment that we're seeing. Look at these two energies, the respect and the attention for where you presently are, the aspiration for what you ideally desire to maintain, making the choices in between. I told you what was the thing that was happening between masculine and feminine energy right now that was creating a difference. Feminine energy, don't touch the soup. How about we don't touch the soup? Masculine saying, we gotta touch the soup. We're gonna eat the soup. Somebody's gotta stick a ladle in the soup at some point. We have to recognize that as good as things are now, we need to think about what we're going to do moving forward. That's the ability of finding the solution here, which is almost, again, making that moment of observation and saying we can move in two modalities at the same time. We can hold on to the positive here, and we can focus on what we need to. We also need to have some sense of where we're going. We can't just stay grounded in the present. So what do we need to do to facilitate a liberation point between maintaining where we are presently, that is good, versus where we aspire to be, which is different in the future? What can we do that'll help release us and make it easier to continue to build forward, to make more soup in the future? So this is that moment that is almost like saying, well, we have to assume that we want to grow the soup. Like, there is going to be more soup is almost like what we're almost seeing here. I know I keep bringing the soup analogy up, but I know you guys like it. So what we're seeing here is, again, focusing with the eye on the future right now is effectively the goal. And even now, some of that perspective that we saw, someone stepping back yesterday, both masculine and feminine, probably had to do with a lot of saying to oneself, what do I aspire for in the future? What do I see in divine union? What are my goals? What are my dreams? Bringing them forth today to be able to do what is necessary to grow those and to remove what may feel like it is hindering that path from being the present now. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. This is feeling the satisfaction, that plateau moment of actually like feeling like you've reached like ground speed and the consistency and stability of the divine union frequency. What's happening for the energy coming in? Future planning. A lot of conversations about the future right now. Feeling like this moment of identifying and recognizing what you need to change, adjust, and accommodate for to build that point of satisfaction on what you have now, but also with an eye for the future. Freeing things up. And that might necessarily even be, I have to stress right now, not immediate changes, but making some determinations on changes that will be made at a future point to help facilitate that growth or coming into better union. A lot of planning here. Masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is going to feel like a lot of that moment of someone either having an energetic breakthrough, coming back into union with someone, seeing tangible changes, being like, I don't need to wait anymore. I can see the fact that you've changed. Or having that moment of saying, I'm good. I've done everything I can here. I've done everything I can. And in fact, the only thing I can do, and what's so painful for a lot of this energy right now that is going into separation, and it's not coming from a state or space of not desiring to be in partnership with some energy. This is literally an energetic frequency that's looking at something right now and saying, the only thing I can think to do, the only possible situation that something here can get better is if I walk away, is if I move forward. The future is the only place where something here has any possibility of potentially coming into a better space or place. Because seeing someone coming towards you right now that desires union, but you're not seeing the expression of what they know, what you know they need to bring forth to be able to facilitate a positive partnership. This is that moment that feels like that act of love saying, I'm not letting you go because I don't want to be with you. It's because I'm hoping that there's some kind of future version of you that I will cross at some point that will have learned the lessons necessary that will facilitate what would be a good desired partnership. And that is that moment. This is like you guys talk about cord cutting. This is cord cutting. You can't just you got to have that energetic moment in mind saying, I need to release this, with the hope and aspiration that someone will heal. Maybe something in the future, time will tell. But that is that moment of saying, I need to move away from it because it's not here. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Cups in combination with our Strength card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, this is heavy energy here. This Ace of Swords energy, it does feel like a lot of that release. It feels a lot like that energetic relief. That is the gift, I told you, the release that feels like a gift. That is that coming into a moment of surrender, but recognizing that the surrender has a gift behind it. That moment of looking at something and saying like, I am letting you go, and it's taking all of my strength to let you go because I know that what I'm doing is right. This is that moment of feeling the assertion of saying to oneself, sometimes the right thing and the easy thing are usually sometimes very, very difficult, different things. So even now we see that this is coming through with the healing that's coming towards someone in this moment, because that affirmation of feeling like you're doing the right thing, it's taking a lot of strength, but it's also allowing this like level of humility and surrender around circumstances or situations, with that hope and aspiration that someone will someday understand why you're moving forward in this way. We see here that a lot of this energy that's doing this right now, is almost that moment that, and it's funny because I can almost see some of this energy saying, I don't know if I'm going to find this, but I know that this isn't what I aspire for, right? And that's even now, I have to say, the ability to kind of surrender oneself to fate in that way, to say like, I know what it is that I want. I don't see it ahead of me immediately, but I'm holding that fixed in my heart. Like that is that moment that you kind of trust the guidance of your own self to say, I know I'm doing the things I need to do to get there, even if it means letting this go. For the energy that's coming into healing, this is the affirmation of potentially having let something go and seeing the result of someone coming back towards you in a space or place that something new can evolve. Feeling that moment of someone saying like, I'm sorry I had to let you go, but now I see why that was like necessary, because the growth that's occurred in the intervening time is the amplification on the reward for doing that difficult work. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is that moment that it feels like, when you come into divine union, it does feel like to a certain extent you release some kind of future outcomes, potentially even with other partnership potentials from the past. This is that moment that may feel like that energetic release point. But what's really lovely right now for the energy that's in the divine union, this isn't even coming through right now to a certain extent in terms of like trying to like put up some kind of false front here. There's an openness that we're seeing in the divine union right now that is almost amplifying the connectivity space. Because it's almost like you're talking about, you're articulating on what you're releasing, what you're letting go, what has evolved in the past that has brought you forth to the present. There could even be a lot of conversation now and like those accommodation points that are being made, but it almost feels like that feeling of a surrender immediately over through a point of celebration. Because this is that moment of like talking together about what you're releasing even as you come into divine union. Right? Those open conversations. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union. This is why this is a bit more heavy lifting. You already did this work. You're talking now. You're looking at where you are now and what is good. But also saying things are good. Things are never perfect. What can we do to amplify the good? What do we need to release? What do we need to change? What do we need to accommodate? It's hard conversations. This is a lot of refinement that's coming through on this right now, but it is also leading to a lot of productivity, because a lot of it is coming through by way and by means of acknowledgement and surrender. And some of this, I need to say, some of this is surrendering to the ego. Some of this is coming into a moment of deep vulnerability. And that ability to almost surrender the ego to circumstances and situations right now is, again, the gift of the divine union frequency, because it's a space or place where, like, the ego, it has room to thrive, but it doesn't feel like it's almost necessary, right? It's like it feels a little unnecessary, if you will. So even now we see that some of this work right now is like, a lot of this is almost like some kind of observable action points and saying like, I can change this. I can adjust that. We can do this. We can make these accommodations, not saying that everything isn't perfect now, but with an observation point on what we aspire and desire to change going forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Strength card and our Knight of Wands. One card to clarify, please. We love this. We've got our Nine of Swords in its reversal. So remember yesterday we had so much of that heaviness, so much of that intensity, effectively potentially even some energy that just needed to like step back and get away from something, not like abandoning something or running away from something, but just saying like, I need a minute to get a better perspective on things. We see here that this is the amplification that energy worked. Why? Look, masculine's coming up right now with new ideas, new passions, new plans, if you will. Feminine, but being adaptable, right? This isn't the masculine like charging, leading the charge. This is masculine finding creative ways to meet the feminine where they're at, right? Again, the modification point of a masculine coming into a space of almost like getting, I want to say like getting creative to be able to find those solutions, right? Feminine, this is that moment of feminine building that resilience, feeling a little bit afraid, potentially a little overwhelmed in some of the changes that masculine is considering or was trying to move forward with. Feminine showing a bit of resilience, not feeling like they're getting out of their comfort zone by pushing themselves just a little bit. Both of these energies right now, finding that balance, finding that energetic comfort level, whereas they're able to meet the other energy without going over it, right? Finding that point of, I want to say, discomfiture, which can often feel like personal growth, but not going so far over it that you feel like you're losing yourself. That is that easement that we see is potentially happening right now in relation to productivity in plans and path work for the energy of the divine union. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union right now. This ability to be able to be open and honest and expressive, to feel like in a way there are no walls between you. There isn't something here that you feel like you have to hide. You can kind of talk about things freely. That in itself is some of that liberation point, because this is a masculine that feels the value of a feminine that can hear the masculine talk about their passions, talk about their past, while having that point of energetic strength and resilience. This is feminine that can be strong, like talk about their own ability right now towards masculine in relationality to their own plans, feeling confident to be able to talk about future with masculine. And what's masculine doing? Is masculine running away with that? Masculine's like, no, I've got ideas to add to that. I love that idea. I want to take that idea even further. So these energies here are working together, and it's creating that continual feeling of relief and catharsis, because it's that energy of feeling like, again, you're not pulling against each other. It's even in the argumentation space, it's creating a lot of creativity and adaptability. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. What I tell you about those two energies that are moving away from someone right now. And it's a lot of hard work, and they're doing it potentially with a lot of argumentation. What's the feminine saying to themselves at this moment? I need to be strong. This is really hard. I need to be strong right now. Masculine. If this is a feminine that's trying to like change, adapt, contort to be with you, this is the masculine saying, I need to be strong right now, but I need to control my passion center. I can't let my passion drive me towards someone if it's hurting them. I need to be like more focused in this. What are these two energies doing right now? They're rife to encounter one another, potentially even meeting under these circumstances and articulating about some of the circumstances that may have led them to meet. Catharsis. They could even be talking to each other presently as they're trying to navigate through some of these circumstances and situations. Masculine, giving the feminine affirmation, giving the feminine confidence, saying, I can see you're doing the right thing. That sounds like it's really hard. Feminine saying, I understand what you mean. You're trying to be your most authentic version of self. You're looking for someone that doesn't feel like it's going to be hurt by you being in your authenticity. Already, we see the shape of some new energetic connections that are coming into play in the midst of what feels like a lot of that energetic heaviness. While for the energy right now that's coming into a resolution space over this is potentially seeing some of that change, and it's being expressed by a masculine, seeing a feminine being like, you're a lot stronger than I remember you to be. And feminine saying, you're a lot more communicative. These are the journeys of someone encountering someone again and saying, you've changed. It's good to see it. but not changing for the other person, saying, I know, I did it for myself. I did it for myself. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Eight of Swords in its reversal and our Ace of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Sun card. Let me tell you about, that's the thing about this energy. Someone being like, look, this is like literally the energy, the new energies meeting each other. Someone saying, you're really strong. You're really communicative. What are the energies saying? I don't feel really strong. I feel awful. I feel terrible. This is really hard. Do you know all these terrible decisions I've had to make recently? This is literally the energy in separation going, if I'm so strong, if I'm so great, why do I feel so terrible? Because this is that true work of healing, which is not that healing of someone being like, I know, I just did the best thing. I just try to no, this is someone being like, I just had to do something that felt like I was tearing my heart out. It felt like I was doing like this awful work. It felt like I had to go through this moment where I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision. I'm still not sure if I'm making the right decision. I feel terrible, right? This is that purge energy of saying like, why does doing the right thing feel so hard? Because it's the right thing to do. And that's the energy saying to one another, I know, I've been there. It hurts. I'm doing it now. Doing the right thing feels awful. And that's where we start to see a little bit of the light at the end of this tunnel, because we've got two energies now potentially in separation, helping each other through very difficult circumstances, offering their own experiences, not moving from a state of like falsitude, saying like, I have also gone through these things. I know exactly what it feels like to have to surrender something you care about for the sake of knowing that it's the best thing to do. These energies are building a solid energetic connection through sharing the journey of their own hardship. While for masculine and feminine energy that are coming into resolution spaces over this, seeing someone change in this capacity could even be a moment of someone saying, I needed you to surrender. I needed you to let me go. I'm so glad that we took that opportunity to walk away, because look how much I've grown. It was hard, but it served its need. I understand now. And that's that energy of someone coming back with that state and space of saying, I am so sorry. I am so sorry I put you through that. I am so sorry you experienced that. That is that empathetic energy of someone saying, I am here to show you that I recognize what I needed to change. And not only do I recognize what I need to change, I've already begun changing it for myself, not just for you. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union, this ability even now is this moment that I told you, if you're feeling so happy, but you're also feeling so sad right now, coming into the divine union frequency, that's because your heart's expanding. That's because you're making room and recognizing that even as you come into that space or state of easement, only now can you unpack some of those circumstances that may have had you in those spaces and places that allowed you to come into the divine union frequency to begin with. This is that moment of your own perspective. It's almost like amplifying like what you thought. I got to say, it's like one of those energies. I have to say, it's like one like, I thought it was bad, but now experiencing this, it's even worse, right? It's almost like one of those moments and saying like, I thought it was, I thought it was sustainable, but now that I'm here, I realize, wow, that was even like we were in even a worse situation. Like that was that moment of looking at something and being like, oh, I understand now. I didn't even see that. I didn't recognize that like that whole thing like was not this. It's the clarity of perspective that you reach in the frequency that helps you suddenly get that sense of observation. And it feels very much like that energetic stark contrast. It doesn't mean that you don't care about it anymore. It almost hurts more observing it from that perspective. That's why we call it the heart expanding exercise. It's sometimes when you come into the divine union frequency, it amplifies the grief of experiences prior, because now you have that capacity of observing the alternative, right? Being like, oh, So we see even now for a lot of that energy that this is a lot of that feeling of potentially unpacking a lot of that heaviness in a space or place that finally feels safe to do so. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This is that moment or modality that is doing some of that heavy work. I told you, being in the divine union frequency doesn't mean that everything's always sunshine and rainbows. We see even now that this is addressing, looking at things right now to make difficult choices, to really confront. This is one of those moments we're seeing for a lot of the divine union frequency that's almost trying to say we're going to have a hard discussion now so that it doesn't become a worse discussion later. This is giving a little bit of that work of like energetically ripping band-aids off of things to a certain extent to address something instead of letting something have some possibility of getting worse or festering. Because again, that sense of discernment, that sense of care, that fastidiousness is almost like required in the energetic upkeep, especially when there's so much of that energetic expansion or feelings expansion that's coming into play. It's like that princess and the pea. Like let's address it before it becomes too overburdensome. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our 8 of Swords in its reversal in combination with our 9 of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. We love this. Look at this counterpart energy. Look at these guys today. What are these energies doing right now in the divine union frequency? Masculine is not going full tilt. Masculine is not just doing whatever they want. Masculine energy is trying to find that midpoint with feminine by coming up with new solutions, coming up with new ideas, brainstorming, being like, let's find a creative way to solve these situations or circumstances. Feminine, that's again, moving forward like the masculine desires, but at the pace of the feminine. What's feminine doing? Building that point of resistance, being a little bit brave, entering a brave space, putting themselves in a space where, again, they're taking a little bit more of that like motivational aspect from the masculine. So both of these energies right now utilizing the counterpart to be able to come into better alignment, right? And so we see even now that is going to allow for a lot of easement and breakthroughs. Because this is the energy, I told you, the difference between two energies pulling against each other and wanting different things versus having different ways of going about it. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union, you're potentially feeling that right now, which guess what? The minute you feel that, suddenly you have like the curtains open on anything that happened prior to this that wasn't giving this. That wasn't feeling like, again, even in a space or place of conflict, it feels like you're moving in the same direction. It feels like you're like headed in a certain cardinal direction together. You're just potentially like bickering about the pace or the modality or how you're going to get there. That ability to identify this now, it's a lot of potential trauma that's opening up to a certain degree in relationality to anything that came before. But it's like that sense of relief, of easement that's opening one's own mind now to be able to look with a new sense of clarity on things that may have like had to take up too much bandwidth before that you didn't even have a chance to consider them. So we see even now that this is that like clarity that's coming through to a certain extent on feeling like you're in the same frequency with someone instead of trying to feel like you're trying to pull someone with you in that direction. Masculine, this feels like more of a potential a maturation point. Feminine, this is feeling like, again, that pathwork of recognizing your own resilience and your own confidence and your own strength, as it were. Both energies doing a lot of that work. Continuing to get clarification on this, the energy in separation, what did I tell you that's happening right now? A lot of energy moving away from difficult situations, and look who's finding each other in the process. And what are they doing? Are they hiding this? No, they're talking openly about it. They're expressing it. They're articulating their feelings. They're talking about their aspirations. They're working through this to a certain capacity. They are healing each other as they proceed forward. So even now we see a lot of potential new energetic connections that are coming to bear, even at a time where someone's like, I feel awful. I'm going through something that's so hard right now. I don't want to have to take these steps. I wish things hadn't reached this. I did everything I could do. Two energies saying, I did everything I could do. What do you think happens when two energies that say, I do everything I can do, encounter one another? Continuing through this, and again, for a lot of the energy right now that's potentially coming into some kind of rectification zone, this is seeing someone and saying, you've changed. You've changed. And that energy saying, I know, I changed for myself. I recognized what you were trying to show me, and I didn't change it for you. I changed it for me. Right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Final card for today's spread, between our Sun card in its reversal and our Queen of Wands. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Beautiful card to end today on, because what are we seeing here? We are seeing that with our Chariot energy, that's what we're seeing. The most important, significant factor right now is feeling that sense of alignment in relationality to where you're going. The difference in terms of energetically feeling like we are all pulling in the same direction. We know what that looks like. We are setting that course. So we see even now, if this is the energy that's been in divine union, that's been going through a lot of this like heavy work, this heavy renovation energy, if you will, that spring cleaning. This is getting that like energetic motivation, and it's coming through right now, doing hard work, looking at something that is difficult. But again, saying to each other, we're looking at the thing that is difficult to make sure that it doesn't become a hurdle in terms of where we're aspiring to go. Both masculine and feminine. Feminine utilizing a lot of resilience and communication to do so. Masculine coming through with a lot of creativity and ideas in relationality to meeting the feminine. Both energies coming into a place of challenging each other, energetically challenging each other, but in a way that feels like it is building on the other's confidence and strengths, giving that point of, again, pushing oneself into your best version of self. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is that energetic equivalent of, again, suddenly what happens when you're suddenly moving in a frequency with someone and it becomes easier. You suddenly got a lot of ability to look around and see all the like the dark spot, like see all the things that were not providing that. So even now, it's like that moment of recognizing and kind of seeing something with like that objectivity of suddenly seeing like what it feels like when things are moving productively, suddenly puts a stark contrast on anything that wasn't doing that. It's like, whoa, I can see it now, and I can see it in a way I did not see it before, because you weren't moving in alignment with energy that was moving in alignment with you, right? It doesn't remove the feeling from anything that happened prior to this. It just changes your own opinion on it. While masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is a lot of energy right now, making the choice to move forward and saying to themselves, even now, if these energies haven't met, saying, I know what I desire. I know what I aspire for. I'm even letting go of someone with the hope that maybe they can meet me there sometime. I don't know what's around that corner. I just know the direction I'm going in. So being able to hold that focus right now is literally what is now allowing for new energetic connections to meet along the way. While for the energy right now that is coming into some point of restoration, this is meeting someone on that road and finding them there. Not because they're like chasing after you or they're trying to contort or change to meet you there. It's because they themselves have kind of decided to embark on that journey for themselves. And this is that moment that may be a point of modification and someone saying, I'm doing this work for me. And I now understand what I need to give to you. Bottom of the deck on today's reading is 10 of Pentacles. There's a lot of energetic obligation that's floating in the air right now. You know, I need to stress that for all of the energies at play right now, there could be something that's really important, in relationality to, I want to say, the status quo, if you will. I can see something about this here, because I even see now energetically for some of the energy and separation, doing this work may feel very hard right now because, you know, there's a lot of focus in relationality to how your choices are impacting those around you. But just remembering and focusing on the fact that, like, when you're making the choices that you know are best for yourself and best for another, moving from that state of like care and empathy, recognizing that the energy that is in alignment with you will always support you in that modality, that is that moment that, like, it feels like there's a lot of energetic heaviness there, because I can even see that there's something about this right now that, is showing something, especially for the energy in separation, that feels very much like, I want to say some kind of like externalized outside pressure. So this could even be feeling like that feeling that other people have opinions on what you're going through right now, and you feel like you have to kind of like help build that sense of clarity and navigation. Similarly, right now, for the energy coming into divine union, this could be more of that energetic shift that we're seeing, that even as you're moving so quickly into divine union, it is requiring a lot of thought on outside energy at a time that you're kind of like very much focused on each other, which could be a little bit of a challenge space too. While for the energy in the divine union frequency, one of the things I think is really important to navigate here that I'm seeing, has to do with like the unknown vector of like what is occurring around you that you can't control. Right? There are the things that within the partnership itself that you can control versus the externalized factors. So that's like, again, one of those moments that like we can do everything we can to anticipate, but then effectively, energetically, there's always that point that feels like a little bit of a Yahtzee, because we have to kind of just see how things turn out. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a personal reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.